Okay, so welcome everyone. This is the Realization Process Office Hour. Today is July 21st, 2021. I'm Michael Leiden, Realization Process Practitioner. And today, this is a launch of this class. It's a class that I'm planning on doing once a month. And basically, it's an opportunity to send in questions about the realization process or about non-dual body-focused meditation in general, and just going through some practices that are based off of your questions, right? In terms of how to deepen or how to address certain things that you're working with in your own practice. So today, and I just want to get a sense, I'm just going to stop the share for a second. How many people here are familiar with the realization process to some degree or practiced it to some degree? Yeah, okay. All right, good, wonderful. Okay, awesome. All right. And if you, I'm just going to invite everyone to mute your microphones as you sign in. Okay. Perfect. So let's just get right into it. The first question today was, how do we deepen and stabilize into non-dual awareness? And this was from somebody that is a alumnus of the Finders course, or the courses that Jeffrey Martin runs. And they had a question about locations, which basically means like our depth of stabilization in non-dual awareness in our everyday waking life, like as our average, you could say. And really the only two ways that I know in terms of how to do that are to meditate, either sitting meditation, meditating during the day, or releasing whatever holding patterns or beliefs that we have. Holding patterns just means like unconscious programming, conditioning, etc. Releasing whatever beliefs we have that sort of pull us out. A lot of times we can experience situations that tug on our shirt energetically and bring us out of the space of stillness. So we can do a little exercise here though to address this, okay? Now, would the person who asked this question feel brave enough to just maybe elaborate on your specific situation and what specific things might come up for you?
I take it that would be me.
Okay, go for it, Judy.
So according to Jeffrey's, I don't know. I don't know most of the people in the group here, so I don't know if how much familiarity we all have with Jeffrey Martin's ladder of events. But according to the way Jeffrey looks at things, years ago, I got thrown into a very, very far distant location and level, and I was so far non-dual that I could not speak for 2 months. And then things calmed down, and eventually after like 8 months or so, I clawed my way back to normal reality, I thought. And I've been finding that there's a lot of features that were left over from that time period. And so I tend to float around a lot in between levels of consciousness and his idea of locations, but it's always engendered by circumstance.
Mm-hmm.
So it's my I guess it's my feeling is my circumstances dictate my level of consciousness at the moment. I sat at the car dealership today in non-dual awareness for 2 hours, and that was perfectly fabulous because I had nothing else that I wanted to do. And I was like kind of blank, and there was no time, and all those kind of things. And then when it was time to get up and move again, I went right back to duality. Mm-hmm. So that's my thing. I don't know if there's a way that I can deepen so that the duality part falls off and I don't spend time there.
So that might be more of a, I don't know, maybe you should email Gary Weber about that one. No, so you want to be in a space where you function from non-duality, like what,
Correct.
all the time, 90% of the time, something like that?
Oh, all the time would be great.
All the
Let's
time.
just go for it. Yes.
Okay. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So it sounds like there's something, okay, tell me if I'm off here, but it sounds like there's something about moving around and doing things and engaging executive functioning that pulls you out of it.
Yeah.
Okay. Mhm. Okay.
I would say that from my early years training,
Mhm.
number one, there was trauma there, but number two, a sense of responsibility was paramount. And I don't know that I feel that I can be responsible enough if I'm non-dual. That responsibility and the sense of I are very closely linked.
Mm-hmm. Right. So that could be a situation where there's, a progressive, a little bit of faith, and then, doing a little bit of work and seeing just what happens. I mean, all the people that I've spoken to about this, that are decent people, they say that they get more functional and not less. So, I mean, I think that there might be a few threads to this that I don't know if we'll be able to get to all of them in this exercise, but
Yeah.
what let's everybody come sit up. We can do something. I think that I hope will help. So, and you're getting some people in the chat who are offering helpful things. Oh, if anybody wants to just make recommendations generally instead of me, because then I'll have to repeat them here. Okay, let's come sit up. Yeah, just get in your preferred meditation posture. So one aspect of this work, of course, is being able to feel stillness and feel kind of open spaciousness while we're on the meditation cushion, while we're doing our own work. Then also bringing it to our everyday life. So let's do a little exercise here where we're just going to feel into stillness. We're going to feel movement, various movements of life, and feel that the stillness underneath it all is not disturbed by the movement. And we're going to see if we can stay, you could say, positioned or rested on the side of stillness, even though certain things in our field of being are moving around. Okay. So I'm going to invite everyone just to feel that your body is like a chair and that you're resting towards the back of the chair. Good. And to tune into the internal sensations of your body, or the sensations of the internal space of your body as a whole. In this practice, progressively, we're experiencing our whole field of experience from the core of our being. Once we can rest into the stillness in our core, we can perceive the stillness through our whole field of being. We can feel that stillness pervades our whole field of experience. Good. Okay. And allow your mind, your thinking mind, your energies, just allow them to settle. Allow them to rest in your heart. Or settle towards the base of your torso. Okay. So we're going to do a little exercise of progressively tuning into subtler and subtler dimensions of being. I'm going to invite everyone to feel all the energies that are moving through your body. By energies, I just mean pulsation and flow. All of the sensations and subtle sensations. We can feel our blood moving, our heartbeat. You can feel those sensations. See if you can just progressively open to a subtler bandwidth of sensation as well. You feel resonances, maybe fluid-like movements of energy through the body. Okay. Good. Yes. Okay. Good. Let's just take a minute to enjoy the movements of energy through the body, the free-flowing movements of energy through the body. We're not trying to make our energy do anything. We're just enjoying it. Good. Okay. So let's see if we can feel in the core of our being. And this is something that we're going to feel as a resonance in the core of our body, a mixture of stillness and resonance. Let's see if we can feel the dimension of ourselves that's even deeper than energy. This is going to feel like it's a stillness in the core of our being that rests beneath the movements of energy. Let's see if we can feel that. Phenomenologically, or as a felt sense, this might feel like it's behind the movements of energy. It might be helpful to rest a little bit further back in the brain or in the body to find this. Let's really take a moment to find the stillness. And by stillness, I mean a kind of open stillness in the core. Not a stillness where we're holding ourselves still, but it's a kind of stillness, spaciousness, and open presence that's already there in the background. It's at once awareness and aliveness, and it's also subtler, or we could say finer, more refined than flows of energy. Cool. So let's rest into this stillness at the same time as we experience the movements of energy through the body. Just do a little inquiry here. Does it feel like this stillness can actually be disturbed by any of the energy? Or does it feel like it's always there in the background, no matter what? What's our sense of it? And forget anything that you've read in books. Just feel what your own direct experience tells you. Sometimes we have feelings or very fine energetic discomforts of, or like mental fixations on needing to be or do, or a kind of hyper responsibility of some sort, maybe that arise from early emotional learnings. We can just feel that as an energy and even feel that as the stillness. Resting in the stillness, and we're just feeling whatever the energy is that gives rise to a sense of needing to be or do something, or hyper responsibility in some people's cases. If you can feel that energy as the stillness. Just let it move through you as sensation. Is it okay to not have to be or do anything in specific right now? To just be. Let's see if you can just rest as stillness, really not trying to make anything happen with any stuck areas of energy in the body or discomforts, but just allowing them to move through as sensation, being with them, feeling them as stillness. The difference between feeling something as stillness and feeling something with our normal mind is that we're really not trying to make anything happen. We don't have any agenda besides just being present in a way that's gentle and naturally compassionate. That's a natural kind of warmth to it that's there in this underlying field of stillness. Okay, so I'm going to invite everyone, again, staying rested in stillness, feeling that you're living at a dimension of your being that's subtler than the energy dimension, subtler than all dimensions of movement. I'm going to invite you to slowly open your eyes. Still staying there. Often when we open our eyes, there's a kind of reflexive defensiveness or we tend to grip our experience when we open our eyes. Just notice that and then come back. Keep your eyes open and then rest back into stillness and allow the stillness to do the seeing. So that you're not gripping your visual experience. You're not gripping the space around you with your mind. We have a tendency to do that too, to grip the space around us, the people around us with our mind to some degree. And that's an energetic experience. When we do that, we project our energy outward a bit. And in this experience, we're just resting in stillness. If there's any movements of energy, we can let those happen. But we're not going with the energy. We're just resting at a dimension through which the energy moves. If there's any need to be or do feelings that arise with opening our eyes, let's see if we can just feel that as a basic energy, as a basic sensory energy, and allow it to move through our system. Feel it completely as stillness. Good. I'm going to invite everyone to just raise your right hand. It doesn't have to be in any particular motion, but as stillness, just raise your right hand. And you can move your hand a bit back and forth. Don't worry about whether this looks funny or feels funny. But see if you can just do this with no real agenda and have the movement itself come from stillness. If there's any need to be in due thoughts about the right way of doing this, okay, just feel those as a sensation. Let them move through you. Sometimes doing things the right way, that lives in the same domain as hyper-responsibility. Or perfectionism or other common need to be in due feelings. Okay, good. And you can put your hand down. So we'll be doing some further exercises exploring this as we progress through the class. But this is one thing that we can remember, one pointer that we can remember about feeling into the stillness that's in the core of our being, feeling that as being a subtler dimension in the energy dimension or any dimensions of movement, including those energies associated to early emotional learnings about hyper responsibility, needing to be or do, something maybe related to perfectionism or other, other common emotional schemas. And just knowing that that dimension of stillness it really can't be affected in and of itself. So if there's something that's pulling us out of it, right, that is something that we can work with. We can practice being in stillness even as we're moving through our day. And if there are specific things that seem to pull us out of it, we can start to isolate those beliefs or those emotions one by one and start to do release work on them. So I hope that was helpful, Judy. Okay. All right. Any questions on that practice? Questions or brief feedback before we go on to the next question? Okay, cool. Give me 1 second. I'm just going to go to the next question here. All right. So second question for today, do we have to know anything about our specific trauma to be helped by a realization process, emotional resolution, which is another modality that I incorporate into realization process work. It's a somatic release modality, or other somatic methods. So for instance, if our trauma happened in infancy, what then? Okay, great question. So actually, I want to put the slide deck back up a second. And I see the chat. I'll get to the chat in 1 second. So this is a little graphic that I've made to try to illustrate some of these subtler dimensions of our experience and how they function. So let's say if you had, if you went through a certain trauma that really impacted your senses or your emotions when you were like during infancy, right? During a period where you were pre-verbal. We could say that you could, you can access it without really knowing what it is or without having a conscious memory of that. And the way to do that would be to feel into this very subtle imprint layer that we could say it's not exactly fundamental consciousness per se, but you could say it's adjacent to it. This is the subtlest layer of the energy field, which I've coded here in yellow. And we could have just as easily have this yellow substrate layer going through the whole body here. Judith Blackstone calls this the movable mind. So you could say it's an interface between the mind and the body, where if you have an intent, the intent, mentality, sensation, energy are all fluid in that layer. So it's where our body and mind are one thing, right? And so we can access that by feeling the stillness of the subtle core, and then bringing the subtle core, meaning that stillness in the core of our being, and that really fundamental steady state resonance that is also part of this aspect of ourselves that really can't be wounded, right? So you can feel into that, and you can feel into the constriction at the same time, wherever you feel that constriction or discomfort in your body, and start to process it that way. You bring your focus into the constriction, you let it actually go into the movement of the constriction itself, right? A lot of these constrictions in our body that are related to early traumas, early emotional learnings that mimic traumatic mimic traumatic events because they have us hold our being in a kind of rigid way. You can look at all of them in a way as incomplete movements. So when we go into a constriction, feel into a constriction, inhabit the constriction, we're allowing it to actually complete its movement. Because at the time that we experienced a trauma, we really could not, the movement of whatever that experience was couldn't really complete itself. Does that make sense to everybody? It was too harsh, too confusing to absorb in that moment or to process. Okay, so we can go through a brief version of the release technique in the realization process. And you'll all have the recording if you want to go back to it. But basically it's this. Everybody come sit up. And this is a practice that we can use for helping constrictions in the body unwind, okay? And we can say that these constrictions are made of, they're made of sensation, they're made of emotion, they're made of energy that is trapped. It's a movement that can't complete itself because it's held in the unconscious mind. Where does the unconscious mind get registered? Through the internal space, the body and energy field. That's where our unconscious mind lives. Okay. So close your eyes. And I'm going to invite everyone just to work on a constriction that you feel safe with, okay? That you feel safe enough and resourced enough to work on in today's practice. Go ahead and find that stillness in your core once again. I'm going to invite everyone to also find the center of your chest, heart center. For those of you who aren't familiar with this practice, we're finding the heart center just above the lower part of the sternum and in the core of the body. The core of the body means poised between our felt sense of back and front. So along the midline in the core. And we'll know that we can land, we know that we've landed on chakra points or core points because there's a felt sense of something lighting up or a kind of aliveness and warmth in these points. Okay. Let's just see if we can feel some of that warmth that we feel in the heart center as a kind of supportiveness. Feel the heart center also as our major connection point to our greater being or the ground of being itself. To the love of the universe, we could say. So let's just take a moment to rest back and feel the supportiveness of that quality. We might all have our own spiritual paradigms as to where the love of the universe actually comes from, right? Or where unconditional love lives, what the source of it is spiritually. But it's an experience that we can have, greater dimension in which that supportiveness arises. Let's really take a moment to feel it and rest into it. And just feel the supportive energy field of this class as well. That we're all part of, we're all co-creating in sense, just by attuning this quality of love or warmth and supportiveness. Good. Okay. And do another little exercise here. Just to think of the heart center as like a little bird, okay? And then the solar plexus center beneath that as like the perch that the bird sits on. So I'm going to invite all of you to now feel your power or personal strength in the solar plexus. And we're finding this also deep in the core of our body. When I say personal strength, it's not self-reflective. It's like the strength of an oak tree. The potency that we can feel in the presence field of our being. It's always there in the background. Part of what we are. I'm going to invite you to feel a fluid mixture of your quality of power and your quality of love at the same time. Feeling an activation in both the solar plexus center and the heart center, and that each feed into the other. We don't have to diminish our power in order to feel loved. We don't have to diminish our love to be empowered. Both can coexist at the same time. But okay. All right. And just feeling the supportiveness of this experience. Good. All right. So you can come back to this if anything gets uncomfortable during the constriction exercise if you want to. The release exercise, rather. So I'm going to invite everyone to find a point of constriction in your body that you want to work with. Okay. And so to begin releasing it, we're actually going to lean in or lean back into it. To feel that we're resting into the constriction, in a sense. We're looking and feeling with the feeling level of our mind, the feeling level of our being, into the constriction. As we do that, we might notice it intensify. We might notice it go further into its constricted position. Or we might notice it spontaneously unpack into sensation, in which case you can let those sensations, or if it unpacks into emotion, you can just allow that to move through your body. And again, feel into your love and your quality of power as a kind of supportiveness. But if it goes further into constriction, just let it do that until it gets to its furthest point of constriction, just on its own. We don't need to tense our muscles or do anything like that. Okay. Once it gets to its furthest point of constriction, release your focus and just come into your whole body at once. Press back into your whole being all at once. And let it move. Let it unwind on its own. And the movements of energy, you can allow them to move complete on the exhale. You notice any waves of energy moving through your body. That's a good sign that you're actually releasing the constriction. You're releasing the content that's held there. We can at first begin to feel this on the more energetic level. And little by little, we can feel it unpack into emotion or memory, right? So again, the body acts as this registry for the unconscious mind. So this time, in as much as you feel comfortable doing so, allow yourself to be open to images, associations, or memories that might come up, okay? Once again, finding the area of constriction. This time seeing if you can feel the depth of it, really feel the depth of it, or the whole network of constriction that this is linked into in the body. And once again, bring your focus gently into the constriction. So we're looking and feeling into the constriction itself, inhabiting the constriction. Notice it go further into contraction, or notice the constriction intensify. And when it gets to its apex, its deepest point of contraction, or most intense sensation, at that point, release your focus and allow the constriction to unwind just on its own. Whatever sensations release, allow them to release through your body. If any pains arise, pains from the past, difficulties, just allow yourself to witness and feel them from your present adult state. Just feeling the love and supportiveness here in the room. Love and supportiveness from the core of your being and from the transcendent fields of being that we're all linked into. And just enjoy any space that's opened up. Once again, we're going to do this one more time. This time, see if you can feel the purpose of the constriction. So maybe we needed to go into this constriction when we were younger to hold ourselves together. Even if we don't have specific memories, that's fine. Often we can feel a certain theme or connotation as to why we held ourselves in this particular constriction. Once again, gently bring your focus into the constriction, allowing it to move further into contraction, just on its own. And this seems to be a contraction of the fascia and of our energy system that happens reflexively. See if you can feel what the purpose of this constriction is, allowing that to come to your awareness. Although also not straining to find what the purpose is, just being open. And release. Let it go. And just notice any subtle movements through your system. Openings through the body. Sometimes it can feel like the internal space of our body is like a sheet that's in a twist, that's untwisting. And that there's more internal space for us to live in or live as. You can feel our energy field expand. These are all common sensations. And just let the energy release on that last round complete through your breathing process. Good. Okay. Good. All right. And let's everybody just become present through your whole body all at once again. Feel that you've got the resource of your own inner power, quality of love. That you're here in the present moment as your adult self. Feeling the supportiveness of the energy of the class as well. If there was any emotion that came up, that's totally fine. It's normal. And just allow that emotion, whatever it is, to be met by your inner love, your inner power, whatever spiritual precedence you feel connected to, and or the support of the class. right. How's everyone doing? Yeah? Okay. Any questions on that one? Let me go and check the chat quickly to see if there are any questions there that I might have missed. Okay. Yeah. Any questions on that exercise? Okay. All right. So third question for today. Oops. Okay. How do we develop the ability to see light in the center of the forehead during realization process meditations? So in my experience, I don't perceive this light all the time. And when I do, sometimes it's a surprise because I'll have my eyes closed and I'm in bed and I'll be like, is there a light on? Did somebody leave a light on? And nope. it's almost like that light is there kind of in the background, just to one extent or another. I don't understand exactly what that is. I've asked Judith about it. She doesn't know exactly what, I mean, she doesn't have a theory as to what it is. Her sense is that it's just helpful in stabilizing in fundamental consciousness, or non-duality, or the ground of our being. So what we're talking about here is a point of light that can sometimes have geometric configurations, or a field of light that can appear when our eyes are closed, right? Who here has had sensations like that at one time or another in the past? Yeah, okay, all right. So pretty common for us meditators. So I honestly don't know a reliable technique to like get that light to appear. But what I do know is a technique for feeling the light of fundamental consciousness pervading the whole field of experience. So, and I would bet maybe $1. I would probably bet more than $1, but I would bet something that I'm confident that if we continue to do that, then that will develop, right? That'll develop over its own accord. Okay, so does the person who had that specific question have any further questions before we do a little exercise on feeling fundamental consciousness as light? Okay, all right. Cool. So let's come sit up. All right. So in this exercise, we're going to feel the stillness in the core of our being, as we did in the first exercise. And the difference here is that we're going to see if we can feel that stillness. We can begin to feel it as its own form of light, right? Sometimes fundamental consciousness is talked about as emptiness. And it is, kind of, but it's also a fullness. It's an empty fullness. And that fullness can be perceived as light. Okay, so that's what we're going to do here. We're going to attune to fundamental consciousness as light. Good. So closing our eyes, getting into our preferred meditation posture. Take a minute to find again the core of your field of being. Now we can feel the internal space of our body. We can feel energy moving through our body. And let's see if we can feel a mixture of spaciousness and presence, a kind of spacious presence that's beneath the flows of energy. And we can feel it as a stillness in the core of our being, or a stillness that's behind all the energetic and sensory movements. When I say behind, I mean that it feels that way in the body. It feels very deep in the body. And it also feels experientially deeper in our field of experience. If we were to ask where this stillness lives, sometimes it can feel like a space that is nowhere, right? Because it is the space where everything arises. It's the space of the field of experience itself. Let's just take a minute to feel that stillness and really rest into it. one thing that that I've gotten feedback about as a helpful exercise for this too is feeling that we're resting towards the back of the brain. This is something that can help us get behind our energetic level. In a way we can rest behind the energy that's moving through the body and feel a deepening of stillness. Good. Okay, very nice, everyone. Now, the felt sense of stillness, we might still feel a kind of contraction in the core, as if there's stillness, but there's still a kind of container around our field of experience that gives a feeling of inside, outside, here, there, right? Okay. Let's see if we can just gently relax that contraction, this mental grip that we hold on our experience. Let's see if we can just allow that contraction to rest. It's almost like we're allowing the contraction itself to feel supported by the stillness beneath. In this exercise, we really don't need to hold our experience together. We can allow the ground of our being to do that. We can allow the stillness to hold us together. I'm going to invite everybody to just take a leap of faith on that for this exercise, just to see what it's like to, put down your bags on the train so that the train can just carry you. That was an analogy that Ramana Maharshi used. Good. And for some of you, see if you can just get a little bit further back. Try getting a little bit further back in your midsection. If there's tension in your midsection or your pelvis, see if you can really feel the back of your pelvic bone, your spine, or your midsection. That might give you a little bit more support that makes it easier to rest back into the subtle core of your being. Feeling your spine as it goes through your midsection, your chest. Good. Okay. Better. Good. Okay. Now, I'm going to invite everyone to see the field of presence that pervades the body, to see it and feel it at the same time. And with your eyes closed. And it's like we're opening the eye of our mind. And we might have a kind of deep, you could call it a synesthetic visual sensation that is a feeling tone mixed with a visual impression. Some of you who are very clairvoyant, you might see it in Technicolor, but for most of us, it's going to be a felt sense mixed with a visual impression. See if you can really feel that mixture of feeling and visual impression at the deepest level of your being. So it feels that we perceive the light that is radiated from the depth of our being. And that the light exists and knows and feels itself and perceives itself at the same time. If you can just, again, tune into your whole presence field and experience it as a kind of inner luminosity. And really just opening the deepest aspect of the mind to this experience. By mind, I just mean the sum total of our deep perceptual faculties and sensory faculties. Good, good, okay. So I'm going to invite everybody to feel this light pervading your whole body, that we're not just perceiving the light, but we're also made of light. Let's go ahead and feel that. That our whole being is actually made of light, and we can feel ourselves resting into this light. Good. I'm going to invite you all to open your eyes now. You might go through that moment of adjustment. Once again, come back. Just bring yourself back so that you're feeling present. And so that deep part of your mind is seeing, feeling consciousness as light, or this presence as light. Sometimes the visual field itself changes. It's hard to say exactly how it does. You might notice a shift. Let's see if we can perceive that light everywhere, okay? Pervading the space around us. Because once we can really rest into the center of fundamental consciousness, it becomes the circumference. To allow this to land a little bit better, I'm going to invite everyone to feel the inside of your body, just to get a sense of that. And this is called interoception, right? All the feelings that point us to the inner aspect of our experience. And then feel the space in the room. Not leaving your body to do this, just feeling the space in the room. It's called exteroception. Perception of the outer aspect of our field of experience, that which is beyond our body. Now, interoception, exteroception, inside, outside, these are senses, or they're the domain of sensation, right? And these sensations exist in our field of experience. They exist in consciousness. Let's see if we can feel a field or a domain within our field of experience that is deeper than both felt sense of inside and outside, and that is where this light originates, okay? Since it's deeper than inside and outside, it's, we could say, in the deepest part of our being and everywhere. So it radiates effortlessly and can be perceived just by resting into the depth of our being. That depth can be actually perceived everywhere because it's consciousness, and consciousness itself is deeper than inside, outside. It's deeper than movements of energy. It's deeper than movements of the mind. Feel that light pervading your whole field of experience, and that your field of experience at its base is made of light. And perceive light as a mixture of luminosity, a kind of emptiness, and stillness. empty fullness. Right? Even if you only get this by 1%, or if you only sense a faint shift, totally fine. You can always build on that progressively. And so let's come back. Good. How did that go for everybody? Yeah, okay, good. All right, Leanne, go ahead.
Thanks, Michael. Just for all of the exercises, actually, this question applies. Have you got anything to share or insights into being really triggered by feeling cold? Or there seems to be a real link between feeling cold or then being cold because of a felt experience and a very basic feeling of fear and not safe. That cue you gave in the last exercise was lovely about putting the luggage down in the train and resting back into that ground of being.
Mm-hmm.
That gave me a sense of the safety that I never feel, and feel that I am pulled out of that ground of being by as soon as I engage language. So trying to talk to you now, it's very hard to keep a sense of that safety. And I'm deeply triggered by cold. So a couple of times this morning I've got up and heated a wheat pack because I found there's a real link between me being cold, not knowing I'm cold, and then because you walked us into being present, I realised just a basic need of there's a real link between cold and it's not safe to not speak or speaking incorrectly, if you've got any tips.
Yeah. So I want to address your question, Leanne. I had one more from the from the class that I'm just going to address first, and hopefully we can do two in one. I realize that we're close to 7 o'clock here, but if I can hang out for like 15 more minutes, it's no big deal. So yeah. Sorry, the last question that I just wanted to address here, and that maybe we can work into the question about the cold, is what to do about somatized stress due to overwork. Maybe those are two separate questions. Okay, somatized stress due to overwork. So so let's address that first. And this when we're talking about somatized stress, we're talking about stress that ends up leading to, potentially autoimmune conditions or things like that. And so, generally speaking, if we do, I know somebody, let me just put it this way. I know somebody, one of my teachers, in fact, who said that he had, what was it? Psoriasis. He had psoriasis on his hands. I think that's what it was. But anyway, it went away. It cleared up when he had, cleared some emotional blocks. So I know that can happen. I don't know that every single situation like that is a somatized emotional issue, but emotions can certainly influence what the body does and how our immune system functions and so on and so forth. But I mean, if we have, let's say, chronic stress due to overwork, I mean, if there's something that we can do to scale back the work and do more self-care and, do things like getting into nature and, meditation and emotional release work, I mean, those are all, I think, really important. I guess if the question is, well, if the cause of somatized stress is stress, then, it behooves us to do things that address the, the underlying stress or emotional pain points. So we can use the realization process release technique, or we didn't cover this today, but there's a technique from emotional resolution, which is very much like the realization process release technique. It's close to things from Vipassana and Zen and other methods. Basically, you just you find a specific thing that triggered you, right? And you feel what arises in your body when you remember that specific trigger. And then you find 3 points where you can feel sensation, and that just helps you anchor into somatic awareness. And then you sit in a space of compassionate presence, doing nothing, right? No agenda, like you're sitting there like a tree. And the emotions and the feelings are just like ants walking up the tree. And you really just, you sit there in a space of non-interference. That's the heart of emotional resolution as a method. But I mean, that's another way to clear those, stress points or pain points that might be related to whether it's just burnout or autoimmune conditions that come up. So, okay. Also, so in the realization process, I just want to say there are two primary methods of healing, and I throw in one more often in my meditations that I guide in healing practices that I work with in classes. One of those is attunement, what we could call attunement, right? We're tuning in, feeling, finding directly these states of sublime, safe, steady consciousness, right? The consciousness at the core of our being, or we can find various qualities, right? The ocean is one thing, but it has different qualities. Fundamental consciousness, or the ground of our being, is one thing. We can experience it in different ways. And one of those ways is as unconditional love, and we can also register it in the body when we really allow our body to really fully feel it as power, right? As a kind of vitality, strength, and so on. And that feels like a sturdiness that supports us from within. And that can all be a really powerful resource for, having better boundaries in our life, or being able to say no when we want to say no. If we have the option to say no to like working too much, then we will feel more inclined to do that, right? And it's something that naturally reinforces our ability and inclination to take care of ourselves. So, okay. All right. So, attunement, right? That's one healing factor. Sorry, that's the third. Attunement, release, which is what we did with the release technique. There's also using the subtle core to release various different holding patterns or emotions that are stuck in the body. The subtle core is the Sushumna or central channel. And also inquiry, which is just like, reasoning with ourselves, not much more than that, or asking ourselves experiential questions that help deepen the process, right? Like earlier, I was asking everybody during the exercise, can we feel, let's forget about everything you read in books, can you actually feel that this stillness is there no matter what, is unconditional? It's not going to be hurt or taken away by anything energetic or sensorial that happens. Does that feel true, right? So, okay. All right, so that's all I wanted to say about that one. Leanne, to your question, it's okay. So can I ask you some personal questions here? I'm not going to get too personal, but yeah.
Yeah, no, that's fine.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So when you get cold, does that bring back memories of anything else, or is it a visceral reaction that is as developed more across the lifespan?
It's a visceral reaction, and in the last year or two, occasionally there'll be a felt sense of a memory, not clear images, but a more of a felt sense of something threatening. Yeah.
Okay. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
There seems to be an association between coldness and varying different sort of feelings of unpleasant things. Yeah. Whether that be the threat of, it seemed, this is some of the thing around language. There isn't a lot of language for this, but it feels like cold's associated with either removal of feeling of safety through either a caregiver or something, perhaps shutting you in the cold or not letting you inside, but also it seems to be linked to emotional coldness as well. So if someone's back is turned to me, so I'm finding a particular trigger at the moment. To give you context, is it's the heart of winter here in Tasmania, and so being indoors in a kitchen with a significant loved person in the kitchen cooking and their backs to me, and I'm cold, yeah, it's a very deep trigger around I don't feel safe, and it's to do with it's dark, it's cold, and someone's got their back to me, and I'm being emotionally shut out.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so it's interesting. It comes up when I work with release things, is I suddenly realise I'm instantly freezing cold. And thank you for the person that messaged me about Wim Hof. I've tried a few times, but because it's linked to trauma, it's not beneficial at this point in time.
Yeah, I hear that. So another thing that we can do is holding two experiences at once, holding two experiences in the same space and time. So for instance, we can feel the warmth of the quality of love, or the warmth of other qualities of fundamental consciousness, or the supportiveness there, and at the same time feel the cold sensations. And we're feeling present in our adult self, but also feeling whatever ego state or sensations, kind of the imprint of that period in time, whatever that was, as we feel it in the present, and just allowing it to sort of unpack, allowing ourselves to know what it was, to know that now it's okay, that we're in a different place in time, and that we can actually process what happened to us fully consciously. Yeah.
I
But
realise we're time poor, so I'll just ask a quick question and then let you move on from that. On that note, is that last exercise we did, it was really beneficial that you used the heart space and solar plexus, so I could get a real sense of that, because there seems to be something associated language-wise with like strength and solar plexus, and you felt sense of strength that leads into this narrative of dominate or be dominated. So when you're trying to just stay with presence, is it helpful perhaps when the coldness kicks in? I feel like I collapse into that internal experience. Is it helpful to actually open the eyes and blend that experience of relative space around you and the felt sense of the ground of being? Or is it pulling you out of the release?
So if there's like, if there's PTSD like symptoms, then often it's more helpful to have the eyes open, because that does anchor us in the present.
That's been my felt sense, that open my eyes and let me actually blend the felt collapse experience internally with, oh, I know I'm actually my adult self in a room where there's no imminent threat.
Right. So, and you can say, okay, well, is it okay to experience this cold now, right? Where there's no imminent threat. And just, if you feel comfortable, allow that cold experience to unpack and, depotentiate a little bit, I guess we could say.
Thank you. Thanks for the extra time, Michael, and the extra questions. Thank you.
Absolutely. Awesome. Okay. So anything else before we wrap up? Any questions on exercises? Anything that we did? Oh, got a hand raised. Okay. Jason, go ahead.
Hey, Michael, can you hear me?
Yep, I can hear you.
Yeah, I have a question, just about coming out of exercises.
Mhm.
And I'm often in this place of wanting to naturally kind of hold on to an experience at the end of an exercise, and having heard so many times that that's not necessarily helpful. So I'm just curious of your thoughts on transitioning out of exercises and, just completely letting go of it and doing whatever, or trying to stay with it a little bit.
I think you should hold on to it as hard as possible. And if it slips out of your hands, then that is just no good. No, I'm just kidding. Yeah, I mean, I've experienced frustration with that too. Sometimes, you go to a retreat, or you do a bunch of healing work, and then you feel this nice glow, and then you go back to your life and it's like, oh, gotta, whatever, things come up, right? Is it that type of thing, or is it just coming out of an exercise in general?
Yeah, more in general, like even just a daily meditation, not necessarily a larger experience, but, just, 20 minutes ago, coming out of an exercise that you led, I felt, oh man, I want to keep this going, and but then I just have been experienced and been told so many times that that's a sort of gripping. So it just seems like there's this maybe middle ground between, you know, keeping my attention somewhat on the experience I'm having, but also moving on.
Yeah, I mean, I wonder if like a way to conceptualize the middle way, or the middle ground is something like this. You know, like we go to a yoga class to cultivate balance, right? Balance is something that's already there in the background. It's something that it's sort of this inner metric that we this inner quality that we can feel, right? But at the same time, you wouldn't stay in down dog like all day, right? So, but you can still sort of feel when your posture is a little bit off, or you can, you can feel how your body is slightly not in alignment, and then bring yourself back throughout the day. I mean, to me, that feels like the middle ground. I mean, and there are exercises that Judith talks about too, as like, when you're walking just from one destination to another. And this is a little bit similar to Headless Way, where you can feel the stillness here, and you can feel everything moving towards you instead of you moving towards it. Instead of your mind projecting out, you can feel everything moving towards you, and you're this space that everything is just moving through. So, so yeah, there are like, micro practices that one could do throughout the day that I think are helpful also, like just being present in the body, feeling that balance, seeing things moving towards you, those types of things that don't involve like gripping our experience. I mean, maybe, I guess maybe the answer is to find some of those, micro practices that can help you stay generally in that zone, but without having to cling to a specific experience, if that makes sense.
Yeah, thanks. That does. I appreciate it.
Okay. Yep. Awesome. That was helpful. Okay. Thank you so much, everyone. And I'll probably be posting this to YouTube. I say that a lot, but I think I will this time. All right. So, all right. And any questions, feel free to shoot me an email. And I'll be sending out, at least to this list, a copy of the video. So have a great night. Thank you. Be well. Take care.